Okay, guys, this is going to be an after-action report for the last game I played with Skrat on his stream. You can go watch it there before or after this, but you should probably watch it to get any kind of context. So he's been working on kind of turning Mega Man video game bosses into system-agnostic TTRPG bosses. And so I took a couple of those, and I decided I'd run an adventure for him. He ran solo. We played the current version of Words of Power. February 10th came out. Minor changes. It's not a big deal. But all of my notes are on paper. So I'm going to be looking down a bit in this video. I'm also going to be holding things up to the camera like a big dum-dum. So the goal of these videos is to give you a peek behind the screen so that you can see how much do I prep, what do I prep, how does it work out, and kind of what I think as the GM, while the players see something completely different. The goal is not to dunk on anybody, call anybody stupid, but I do get hyperbolic and excited. Also, it's just really fun after you play a game to talk about it, and I don't have anybody to talk to. So Skrat had kind of worked on this bubble crab boss that is in one of the Mega Man games, but he was taking it out and making it his own, and this was kind of the cyberpunk themed one, and I figured, crab, why not bubble crab? So we're going to have him hunting the notorious hacker, Bubble Crab. Cyberpunk dystopian future, so, like mechanical bits and stuff. He played a squirrel, of course, a squirrel barbarian that happened to be kind of mechanized. This was also our first test of a level 3 character. I wanted to see how the HP worked out. I wanted to see how having a bunch of words worked out. And so he had a level 3 mechanized, but also normal, organic barbarian squirrel. Most of his character sheet did not end up being that helpful, and he kept getting tags and words confused, like he thought they could both be used to cast spells. This was a recurring problem, and that's just because he plays like a different game every single day. So, no hate on that, but we did get caught up a couple times, and we didn't get too many opportunities to actually use a few things. He chose Overwhelming, Electrical, Squirrel, and Relentless as his level up tag. Now in Words of Power, when you level up, you get plus 1 HP to all of your hit zones, and you get to choose either a tag or a word. If you choose a tag, it can also be spent as an extra life. He chose the words Shock, Shred, Fast, and then as his level up words, Climb and Grapple. Now, I did not tell him if he started at level 0 or level 1. I kind of wanted to see what he would do because I couldn't decide. And it seems that he decided he started at level 0. And so level 3 was 3 level ups. But Words of Power is not a balanced game, but it also kind of is. You don't get that much stronger, you just kind of get more options. And so I don't really worry about balance that much at all, ever. Not even a little bit. It's not on his character sheet, but he described as soon as we started, he's like, I want to have some kind of like shocky acorns that I can throw. And so we understood that, yeah, you have that. Okay, this is the entire map that I made, not the bottom right corner, just those 4 squares and those top 3 buildings. The very first scene of the game opens in the town square. He's in this dystopian future city where bombs have gone off and it's been evacuated, and kind of like the background of the city is just in flames. He is in a town square that is not in flames, and there are 3 buildings he can choose to go to. He knows that he is here to stop Bubble Crab. He knows that he is here to stop Bubble Crab from hacking the tower, which is this giant office building. To his left is a large garage door. To the right is some kind of bank, and dead ahead is the tower. With no hesitation whatsoever, Skrat runs over and opens up the garage door, and he reveals a machine shop. There's an old man sitting at a desk. There are kind of prosthetic parts just hanging from the walls that seem like they might fit and have a gator theme. So he goes in and introduces himself to a character that is completely legally distinct from Dr. Light. And Dr. Light basically says, hey, I have papers in the bank next door. If you go get those, I will upgrade you. So in this future setting, hacking things is pretty prevalent. So the really valuable stuff gets kept in a bank, which is like secrets, for your company, robot specs, and the contract that Dr. Light has with one of the corporations that forces him to keep working. Now, he's not freaking out about the bombs. He's just chilling. So our boy Squirrel heads over to the bank and he's like, well, I could get that. Going in, it's a pretty simple bank layout. It's got one of those little ribbon walkways and it's got like a long counter. And then behind that is a vault and a couple of things that he recognizes from his time researching Bubble Crab, tracking him for a while now. He knows that Bubble Crab hacks crab bots. Now, crab bots are just part of society. They are useful robots that help people normally. These are the Civilian Reconnaissance Assistant Bot, VT-3000, and the CrabBot CB-1000, which is a construction robot that is much larger. It kind of like grabs steel beams and moves them and stuff. They're used for construction underwater. These are things that Skrat came up with, and he kind of said it as a throwaway thing on his stream. And when it came back, he's like, man, I designed that. It was quite funny. So the little crab bots are really little. They're like the size of your foot, and they scurry around and they zoom in with their little eyes, and they're kind of like cameras, right? They're supposed to be so that civilians can report things immediately to the controllers of the bots. But these have been hacked by Bubble Crab. So Skrat is going to try to wait patiently for this big construction bot to tear the door off this vault because like he's trying to get in there and that'll make things easier. But Skrat is not a very patient character. He's a barbarian. So I make him roll for it and he fails. So we describe this as his tail getting a little too excited and starting to pop off sparks. So the little crab bots notice him and they start scurrying over and snipping. Now Skrat has identified two very important things. One, that the axe is wildly inaccurate and sucks balls. Two, that I'm going to be very nice to him when he tries to do cool things. So he starts grabbing bots and smashing them into each other. And I'm going to let it go because it's pretty cool. But technically, there probably should have been additional rolls to resolve the concept of throwing something. I don't think I even made him really roll for a grapple or to maintain a grapple or to do a ranged attack. But it was cool, and he's one guy, and he's outnumbered, so we're going with it. Technically, the notes for the CrabBot VT-3000, they only have 2 valid hit zones, which are 1 and 4, head and legs. You actually miss on a 2 or 3. With the axe, and with these stats, he was never, in a trillion years, going to hit these bots. He would have died on the very first little crab bot had I actually played this out, rules as written, with the stats I planned. And that's not a failure of mine or his. It's just a bad match. And so as a GM, I had to rework it immediately. And I'm so glad he just started grabbing stuff because that's easy to hand wave and like not be like, well, actually. So he smashes the little bots into each other, and the big bot comes over, and he's like, oh, right, clip to clap. And so Skrat wants to do a climbing attack. He wants to climb up him and axe him. Now, Skrat had already moved that turn. So technically, climbing and then attacking should probably be 2 more actions, but we decided to call it a climbing attack because it's really just an attack, right? But he wants a bonus to it, and that makes sense to me. So he goes for that, he gets the crit, he headshots this thing and brings it down in one swing. Dope. But now he's got to get into the vault. How's he going to get into the vault? He has drawn the word metal, and he chose the word shred. So he casts Metal Shred to just yoink that door right off. Inside, he finds Dr. Light's papers, but he also wants to see if he can find anything about Bubble Crab. I believe he failed that roll and didn't manage to, and he's like, oh, shucks, right? Heads back to Dr. Light, and I give him 2 options of upgrades. I say he can either get an arm that fires a projectile that spins and hits twice for low damage, or legs that have the word spin. Now, this is just a magic item, but it's also got increased HP. Because it's mechanized, he can replace his own legs with it. That'll be bonus HP, right? There was an additional part ahead planned because I didn't know before the adventure what parts of him would be mechanized. I told him that it would behoove him to have some mechanized parts, and I thought that was hilarious pun because, like, he got legs. It literally behooved him. It gave him hooves, but whatever. In the Mega Man games, Bubble Crab is weak to Spin Gator, and Skrat has played these games way more than I ever have. I didn't even play the ones that these guys are in. So he knows that the arm is going to be helpful for this fight. But he's like, I'll take the legs. Simply to troll me. So, I'm like, whatever, your funeral, bro, right? He takes the legs, he got the bonus HP, and the word spin now. With our little side adventure out of the way, it is time to take on the tower. Now, I thought the tower would take longer, because I thought he would investigate more and try to get, like, information from this corporate environment, especially because he's hunting robots. But as much as I want to believe that Skrat is a role player at heart, he always seems to find himself in combat. So he enters the tower, and the first floor is just a reception desk, right? And he's like, whatever, I'm going up the stairs. Forget the elevator. I'm up the stairs. New legs, new me. Had he decided to investigate the receptionist desk, he would have found a directory that listed out the floors of the building that were maybe interesting to him, and he could visit them intentionally and find things there. But no, he just ran up the stairs. So on his way up the stairs, a laser comes out of nowhere and zaps his legs. He's paralyzed. He turns around and he sees the stun trap integrated night guard RA-11, the Stingray, and he realizes that he's in a fight. So this is a robot that kind of looks like a rug, and it has a tail that comes out and shoots stun things, and then it crawls over and eats you. If you're stunned already, that's how it spends its turn. Skrat is paralyzed, but I believe he used a spell to draw the Stingray to him so that he could then axe it. But historically, Skrat cannot hit anything with this axe. He's very upset that you miss on a 5, 6, or 7. He rolled 5s all night. I think he hit one thing with the axe ever, and it might have been that crab bot that we talked about. So he does eventually dispatch the Stingray, but I don't remember how. I don't think he hit it with the axe. He must have used a spell of some kind. After defeating the Stingray, he's right back up the stairs. Had he tried the elevator at this point, it would have been broken anyway, but he would have realized that it's been disabled. Going up to the second floor, this is kind of cubicles and workstations and like computers, and there's a lot of notes and things, and there are 4 little crabbot buddies. I believe he used string and spin to like extend his axe and swing it around him to hit all 4 of them. I don't actually remember. It was either that or smashing them together, because smashing them together kills 2 at once. And I remember I didn't want to give him words for all 4 of them because it was like, I just wiped them all out. Whatever, bro. Here he did look for some schematics of some robots. He was trying to get some level of information. But when I asked him what he wants to look for, he said the Stingray. Now, there were only 2 Stingrays planned in this adventure, and one of them got replaced by Dr. Light. So, not the most helpful information. I was thinking maybe he'd say Crabbots or Bubble Crab himself or something, but no. Nah. There was information to be had here specifically, and he found it, so we're going to call that one a win. Again, back up the stairs, no interest in the elevator, which would have been blocked had he tried. On to the 3rd floor. Now, this is where the prototypes of new robots are hanging out. They have like this kind of power cord coming down to their necks, and they're kind of suspended on display stands that are kind of circular. And so he goes in there and he's like, man, these things are going to attack me. And well, they're going to attack him, of course, obviously. But which one is going to attack you? So I set it out and I let him kind of make a decision that was kind of pointless. Like, which one do you want to look at? I had not planned for one of them to be smashed open, but I wanted to give him some kind of forewarning that, like, yes, you are going to be attacked. So I made one of the display cases smashed open, and I put the mini boss, like the mid boss, I had him hide in the room. In my notes for this room, it actually says, if crab bots have spotted, they will attack. Otherwise, friend. So the only way that this prototype gets hacked by Bubble Crab is if the crab bots have already spotted you. So there was some option for Skrat to have done stealth in this mission and like not let Bubble Crab know that he was here. Having known that Bubble Crab hacks the crab bots, he could have spotted and tried to avoid them or something, but he made no such attempts. But he was hacked by Bubble Crab. So a fireball hits the wall next to him while he's looking at these display cases and kind of spreads flames all through the room, liquid fuel burning. And this is another boss from Skrat's design series where he's making the Mega Man bosses into these bosses. And he described this move where he reaches into lava and flings lava, but lava just wasn't going to fit into this setting. But the liquid fuel plays the same role. So he starts reaching into the flames and flinging it at Skrat, and Skrat's like, we are not doing that today. So he casts a spell, something with spin, something with blade, kind of spins around with his axe to make kind of a whirlwind and put all the flames out. You cast a spell, you get what you want. With the flames out, they went back and forth a little bit. Flamestag's doing like fire knuckle boxing stuff, and Skrat is just trying to axe everything. I don't remember exactly what happened with this fight. I believe Skrat used something like shock reception to try and disable a bunch of the little crab bots. I believe we were using ads for the fight, so I believe that's how it turned out. At one point, I do remember that Flamestag used like fire knuckle dash or something to zoom at Skrat, and he counterspelled with elevator, which I thought was cool. But what he wanted to do was use his axe as a ramp to get Flamestag to run over him. And I thought that was super cool. So we did that. And then Flamestag just kind of like backed down, came to his senses, like, oh man, what am I doing? And at this point, I was going to have Flamestag kind of join Skrat if he made any attempt to roleplay with him and like bring him on board. But he wasn't really engaging with it. And then he said the word burn. And the thing about Flamestag, I believe, my understanding from Skrat's stream is that Flamestag is some kind of guy that's like actually trying to protect people from a volcano exploding or a nuclear reactor going off. And so part of his thing is like trying to avoid the explosion. So when he said the word burn, I'm like, well, that's great. We'll just have him freak out and run off. So he like dives out a window, right? So now Skrat is in the room with the prototypes. Everything's kind of destroyed and smoldering. And this is the last kind of filler room that we have for the tower. It's a big tower, but I plan to skip a lot of it. In my notes, I actually made a distinction between if he goes up the stairs, he will lose HP from the exhaustion of going up all the stairs. And if he goes up the elevator, he won't get a penalty. But because he had been using stairs so far, and he had not interacted with the elevator at all, and I really wanted to like talk about my Octolocks, I told him that the way's blocked. I'm like, no, go to the elevator, you asshole. And I shouldn't have done that. I railroaded him directly into the elevator. And it's like, just go to the elevator. Just one time. Just look at it with your eyeballs and then make a decision. So anyway, he gets over there and there's like these octopus-shaped locks that are like binding everything up. And that's why the elevators can't move. Now, after the fact, I realized that everything being on fire probably should have released these guys because that's the key to it, right? Like they release on fire. And the plan for that was for Flamestag to drop a body part. He was going to drop an arm or a leg, something with the word flame on it that let him use flamethrowers. But Flamestag ran away. So what are we going to fucking do here, right? The one note that I had was if you hit it, you get shocked. When Skrat tried to use his shock axe to cleave this thing off, he just got zapped back, which felt kind of bad, and I should have just gone with it because it was not important at this point. But I'm a big old baby. So he goes and gets some debris, and he's like, I'll hit it with the debris. And I'm like, well, that's burning. That's good enough to get it to go and get off the elevator. He's like, okay, I will take the elevator directly to the penthouse. I'm like, thank you so much. for participating in this adventure. And I say adventure, but really it's quite railroady. I feel bad about that. But you need a pretty proactive player to not really have like a sequential adventure like this. And we just don't do enough prep time, enough investment in the one shot for it to be super feasible for Skrat to like play a character and just do whatever, because there's no context. There's no world building. It's just, I don't know, cyberpunk dystopia, which is enough for some people, but I don't think he gets into it that quickly. Now, in the penthouse is the server room, and this is where he knows Bubble Crab is going to be. There's no question about it. I give him time to prepare. I say, whatever you want to do when those doors open, you tell me, and we will come out swinging. And what he decides is, as soon as the doors open, if there's someone to throw his shock nuts at, he wants to throw his shock nuts. Doors open, server room, little beeps and boops everywhere, Bubble Crab with his back to him doing some hacking, and Skrat throws his shock nuts, trying to create some kind of arc that will do damage. But Bubble Crab has his shield up. Now, his bubble shield can take one hit and then it pops, but it can take any one hit, right? I believe that he rolled pretty well and he managed to get an arc that did pop the shield at least. So Bubble Crab was not super prepared for the first round of combat, and we rolled right into it. The way that Bubble Crab is designed for Words of Power, this is not Skrat's design, this is what I did with Skrat's design, is that he has the words Bubble, Hack, and Deceive, but he's also got some special abilities. And special abilities is something I like to do for my bosses in Words of Power, because if you can just counterspell everything, it can feel a little lame, and it's nice to have these big attacks that are signature that he doesn't have to have the words for all the time. So he can do a shield, which surrounds him, and that's going to be one action. He can burst the shield to kind of put water on the ground, and then from the puddles there, little crab bots are going to come up 3 turns later. He can also do a laser crab claw, which is something from the game, where when you're above him, he kind of raises up his spikes and gets you. This is his high damage signature attack, but it only happens when you're above him. So for Words of Power, I decided if you're above him, he's going to fucking do it. And he can move around and he'll try to position himself under you on the battle board, which is kind of a goofy way to use the battle board, but it also gives you a reason to move around the battle board, not just sit there swinging at each other. To move around the battle board and not just sit there swinging at each other. Skrat does okay at first. He wipes out a couple of waves of the little crab bots coming in, which was really good. At one point, he loses an arm, and he spends his tag Relentless to get it back, because the two-hand axe is no good with one arm. What's he going to do to Bubble Crab at that point? However, this means that he can't use it in the event that he dies to resist death. But then he got complacent. He started trying to land axe swings from directly above Bubble Crab. And so he took 2 crab claws to the noggin, lost his armor, lost his face, and he died. He died like an hour into this stream. And we didn't know what to do. We're just like, I guess we'll chat for 40 minutes? And at this time, everyone starts coming into chat. Everyone's like, oh man, did I miss it? Did I miss it? Did I miss it? And we're like, he just died. He literally just died. So in true Mega Man fashion, we give him another shot at the boss. I give him 4 or 5 words from chat. You know, they're participating. They're giving us good words. And we're going to give him another shot. We start back from the point where the doors open and he enters into the server room. Same situation. Shields up. He's ready. I think this time Bubble Crab won initiative. And so he went first. And what he did was he burst his shield to make little puddles all over the room for the little crab bots to come out. And then he started moving in a way that would bait Skrat into moving so he could get under him again and crab claw him again. Because I had decided, if you're going to stand there, you're going to die, right? Like, I would love to do it to him twice. I do remember that Skrat used Shock River to take that kind of water that had just fallen, form a river out of it to Bubble Crab, and then shock it with his word shock, and get automatic damage on the guy's legs. which was great because he has no shield. This is a great way to start off. Skrat didn't know it at the time, but the hit zones of Bubble Crab are actually not all standardized. It's actually 13 for his head, 10 for his arms, and then 8 for his legs. So doing 4 damage to his legs actually halfway killed him. It's actually a very strong start, but he didn't know that at the time. He had this one really great spell where he grabbed Bubble Crab and used glass to slam him into some glass that then prevented him from making his shield again for the rest of the fight. That was super sick at the time. As they're going back and forth and Bubble Crab's trying to get under and Skrat's like, not this time, not this time. Bubble Crab kind of gives up and he's like, I'm going to start trying to hack this guy. So he's casting things like hack strength, hack speed, and Skrat's counterspelling. And we get to the point where it's like, he's out of words. He needs to do something here. He's got 2 HP on his legs, and Bubble Crab is, I forget what he was casting. It might have been hack strength. Honestly, I was burning friggin' turns trying to give him a chance because I didn't want to laser crab him again, but he just kept standing there. He just kept standing in position to get crabbed after I had already explained to him the criteria by which he gets crabbed. Anyway, I think he gave up his legs to counterspell because they were a magic item. And I remember us joking about him crawling across the floor. But in the end, he did break Bubble Crab's legs. He might have hit them with the little crab bots. I don't really remember. But he survived the second fight. And we got to end on a pretty high note. So that was great. That is what I remember. How accurate any of that is, I have literally no idea. You can watch the stream, and there is a very good chance that nothing I said actually happened. But it's the fun of these after action reports. This is what I remember. This is what I did behind the scenes. This is how it worked out. Going back to the very beginning, the goal of that gator arm that I gave him, the little spin gator arm, was that it would do 1 damage and then hit for 1d4. So even if Bubble Crab had his shield up, it would break the shield and then bop him in the face. But Skrat knew that, and Skrat chose not to take it. I think that's it for this game. I don't do an after action report for every game, but I know that people were curious about this one. They missed the stream, and I also wanted to talk about how I ended up using the Bubble Crab that somebody else designed. I've actually been playing kind of a lot of games lately. So we had the guy from Wardens of the Wetlands. He ran the game for me, and I do want to do a video about that experience, but I don't know that it's going to be an after action report. I also had one of the best sessions just today. We played for like 4 hours, these 2 random guys from Reddit who ended up being awesome. And they had a really good time role playing. So I want to talk about that game. But the thing that makes me hesitate for both of these is that I didn't plan anything. The 2 guys, that was complete improv. And when I played in East Shore's game, that was improv too. I didn't plan anything there. I made Gargle Spout both barrels again. I just kind of did whatever. So there's not that much to talk about behind the screen, right? It's just, this is what happened, which is a less interesting topic, I think, personally. But these after action reports in general, just as a category, are far less popular than anything else, which is fair. Why would you be interested in a game that you weren't in that is poorly remembered and just recapped by a ranting man? But if there is one that you want to hear about specifically, let me know. I have things to say about those games, but I don't think an after action report is the format to talk about them. Anyway, have a great day.